Welcome you all to India HR Live. And when the time hits 8 o'clock, as you all know, it is time for India HR Live show. And here in Dallas, Texas, it is 9:30 a.m. Central Time. Very much sunny outside, and I can ask more than that. So, to you all, we are delighted to have such an expert, sourcing ninjas, as you can call, and helping you to know what are some cutting edge tools and techniques on sourcing industry and what you are really missing in sourcing industry. So we are going to discuss the future of sourcing, what it was then and what it is now. So stay tuned and join us on Twitter with the hashtag IndiaHR and if you wanted to ask any question, please go ahead and do that. And we're pretty much happy to kick off the show right now. We have good technology at this point, which is really blessed. So let's kick off. We have Jeremy Roberts, who's the editor of SourceCon.com. Jeremy, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here. It is. I've been working in talent acquisition for about 15 years. I guess the last 5 or 6 of those in pure sourcing and sourcing leadership roles prior to joining SourceCon. So I've been the editor of SourceCon for about a year now, and part of my job description is to organize the SourceCon conference that happens twice a year. So.
Great, that is wonderful. So how do you feel that transition from a sourcing industry as a corporate HR to a person that builds a community, brings everyone together, and putting up a great conference together?
You know, it's been different. What I told someone the other day, it's like they took the 10% of my job that was my absolute favorite part of my job and then did away with everything else. So I would, when I was a sourcer and recruiter, I would constantly be looking for time to try new tools and to experiment with new ways of finding people, and also blogging and speaking. And so now pretty much everything else has been removed, and that's all I do. So it's been a great transition. I enjoy the people that I get to learn from. The neatest thing about my job is I get to build an agenda twice a year and collect blog posts from some of the smartest people in our business. So I get to read and talk with some of the best thought leaders that exist for sourcing. So it's been a great transition. So no regrets at all.
Great. We're delighted to have you here and look forward to hear your words of wisdom about sourcing. And let's meet Jessica Miller-Merrill. Hey, Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, Jessica is the founder of Blogging for a Job, which is a #1 career website and recruit it. And if you wanted to know HR recruiting, social recruiting, stay tuned. And she's also the CEO of Exceptional HR. So, Jessica, would you like to talk a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, I'm a lot like Jeremy in that I was a practitioner. My roots are in the HR space, but I've always been an HR professional who's been responsible for sourcing or recruiting in some sort of way. And in 2001, I successfully used dating websites to be able to source candidates to fill at Target where I was working. So I've always kind of taken a creative spin to things, which is why social media, blogging, all these new cool tools and hacks, particularly in the sourcing side, are so interesting to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, wonderful to have you here, and check out her blog, Blogging for Jobs, and you will not miss any of the latest trends. I'm for sure about it. And let's meet Nitin Verma. He's a global sourcing leader at WNS. Hey, Nitin, welcome to the show.
Hi. Yeah, thank you, Nisha. Thanks for giving this platform. So really thankful to you on this for sure. And I'm in recruitment industry for almost a decade now, and I have started my career as a recruiter, grown as a recruitment, end-to-end recruitment. Then currently for the past 3-4 years, I'm into sourcing because sourcing is my passion. So I wanted to be into sourcing because sourcing is more challenging and passion, that's what I feel. So I'm enjoying my work as a sourcer, as a sourcing lead, and giving training to my team as well. So that's my job, currently.
Great. Well, wonderful
Yeah.
to have you here with us, Nitin. And I'm sure we know more because we are connected. Kunjal is one of our friends. So thank you to
Right.
Kunjal for letting me introduce to you and to be on the show.
Yeah, because he's the social media expert, so he only introduced me with you. So you
Oh,
can understand now we are moving from normal sourcing to social media. So that is one of the major moves in my current company.
all right, all right. Now let's meet Yusuf Patan. Hey, Yusuf, welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hi, Nisha. Thank you for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to be on this show. I've been into the sourcing industry since 14 years now. I've worked with a couple of RPOs before in management level positions, and now I head the RPO here in Pune. We have around 100 sources working in KD sourcing. So I head that company, and then recently we started with a community called sourcing at. Similar to what there are a lot of associations like SourceCon. So we started something similar to that in India, and last 4 5 months we've been engaging a lot of sources and recruiters, and I'm actually enjoying that a lot. And transferring of knowledge is happening, and a lot of things happening around recruitment in that community.
Great, great. Well, interesting to hear that you are more into community building as well, and we are looking forward to your upcoming events as well.
Yeah, thank you.
All right.
You have one in India soon, right?
Yeah, sorry, Jeremy, I didn't.
There's one in India very soon, right? Is that your events?
Yes, there's an event in Bangalore on 8th of August. Shally is coming down to India, and there's an event in Bangalore happening there in a couple of months.
Very
Mm-hmm.
cool. Well, good
Yeah.
luck with that.
Thank you, Jeremy.
Wonderful. So let's open the panel discussion. As we all know, with all the social tools and technologies popping up everywhere, finding a talent is not that tough anymore. And it's not that case anymore because it is so easy to find anyone anywhere online. But what it really takes to succeed for a sourcer, is it the engagement or is it finding the right candidates? What are some tactics? So let's hear more about it from our panelists on what really sourcing it was then and what it is now. What has changed in the sourcing industry? Jeremy, would you like to kick off our
Sure.
panel discussion with your thoughts? Great.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess, I wasn't at the first couple of source cons, but when you look back in the early days of sourcing, back in 2000, well, I mean, first of all, sourcing is a function of the recruiting process that's always been there. So when you look at kind of when these internet sourcing events started, they were really focused on how to find people, and it was really, how do you write a Boolean search string? How do you identify people on lists of people who have attended conferences? And like Jessica was looking at dating sites, and Facebook had just launched and Twitter had just launched. So it was really, how do you extract data from those places? Now that it's become a lot easier to do that, the problem with that is there's so many people on those sites now that it's created a lot of noise. So there still needs to be as much expertise, I think, just to cut through the clutter, because there are so many people. So we need to focus on how to cut through all of the noise on the social networks, and within our own ATSs and everything else. We've got so much data. How do you cut through that quickly? And then how do you engage the candidates? So what we focus on a lot at SourceCon and other events that I've seen the agenda is productivity. What are some hacks to stay productive and cut steps out of your process and stay engaged? And then once you've identified the right candidates, how do you engage them quickly? I think everyone is getting thousands of emails every day, are being sent to top candidates. So how do you stand out among the crowd? What do you do to engage those candidates? And then how do you get them excited and move them through the process? And so we're seeing more and more. First of all, we organize our conference for anyone who sources. So whether it's a recruiter that sources or a sourcer who sources, It doesn't matter if you're doing it 10% of your day or 90% of your day. We want to help you cut through the clutter quickly and then engage those candidates. So I think that the candidate engagement is a big deal, and because it's so hard to engage candidates, you have to be able to source as fast as possible. So how to get beyond that part of your day into the engagement phase is really the key right now.
Right. That is a great start, Jeremy, with that candidate engagement aspect. And Jessica, I think you can add more on, because you have a decade of experience in the recruiting spectrum, and as you said, you started this recruiting industry, you exploring all the dating sites which people have never ever thought of in the beginning, and then now with all the social tools and aggregators, and if you can ask me, so what do you think? What it really takes to provide that candidate experience that we all are expecting for?
First, I think it's really critical for sourcing. I think it's more important than it ever was before. Before, really, social media and technology, it was about phone sourcing. So you were building lists and phone trees and sort of mapping out a company, and now you have the ability to do that online. And if you were recruiting for really critical roles, you should be building lists within the internet. So having a place to house maybe people that you want to just monitor and then periodically check up on and engage. That's really key. If you look at here, being in Silicon Valley in California, there's such a need. I think there's like 40,000 openings for Hadoop developers. And sorry, my daughter's in the background.
No problem.
But there are really only is a very small amount of people, so you really have to be on your game and focus on building relationship with these guys or gals so that when they actually are ready to move, they think of you first. And so that is really the key in the future of engagement, is building a place to be able to store those relationships, sort of like a CRM, and then following up with people timely, because social media we're all kind of ADD. There's so much information out there. There's so many people that we're engaging with that it's hard to make a real connection. And so this means that we need to really be on our game when it comes to following up with our candidates. So in-mails, generic postings, crappy emails, they're no longer going to do. We need to really get creative and focused about how we're going to talk to our job seeker that we want at our company.
Right. That is well said. Bulk emails, spam messaging won't work anymore. So, Nitin, what have you seen in the sourcing spectrum? What do you see, what do you say is the future is going to be for sourcing? As Jeremy said, it would be engagement and candidate engagement, and Jessica has as well said the same thing. What are your perspectives?
See, my take on the future of sourcing is, because I still remember, when I was a recruiter, I started, sourcing from the portal. But now you look at, this horizon has so big. We have social media wherein we can go to LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. We can search people on Facebook. So there are a lot of other avenues as well where we can source candidates. So definitely, I would, stick that, right now, if you look at, it is not only portal. We have future of sourcing social media. Definitely, internal employee reference is one of the key area where all the companies are focusing, because this is again a low cost thing. So I think these two things, what is currently in my mind, which is the future of sourcing.
Wonderful. And how about Yusuf? You are actually moving the sourcing needle in India. I know that you're doing a lot of webinars and a lot of workshops for the upcoming sourcers in India. So what do you see the sourcing is going to be in the future?
Okay. Well, currently, if you look at the situation in India, most of the recruiters, they either come in this profession by accident, or they look at it as a stepping stone to get into HR generalist role. So if you look at the European countries or the western part of the world, these people are very passionate about sourcing, and they do a lot of recruitment, and people get into recruitment as a career. But in India, it's a different story. But then slowly India is also getting there. Now, companies like Capgemini, Accenture, and there are a lot of other companies who've got sourcing teams in the companies. Earlier in India, we used to have just HR the recruitment as a part of HR responsibility, but now that's moving towards a different scenario. We're moving towards having different sourcing teams and recruitment teams, and the main focus of these people would be to source candidates through different channels, as Jeremy and everyone mentioned, going through social media, engaging people on different platforms. There are companies who have been doing, companies like HP, they recently launched a innovative campaign on Twitter. Then we've got Capgemini who's doing a tech talent show. So there are a lot of things happening over sourcing. So it's not just about searching on the internet, or it's not just about searching, it's about engaging as well.
Right, right. Well, before we move into the sourcing spectrum, I really wanted to touch base this particular thought that you have shared right now. As you're saying, in India, there is a trend that people are considering recruiting or a recruiting profession as a first step for getting into an HR role. But over here in the United States, what I can see throughout my experience is like people really embrace that role and want to build that as their number one career in their life or in their profession. And I think Jeremy and Jessica can add on to that. So this question to everyone: what do you say to those professionals who are into their entry-level sourcing or recruiter role? What do you want to tell them? Hey, this is going to be a fantastic career if you're going down that path and build that as your career.
I think, first of all, if you truly enjoy one of those, you're going to be miserable in the other. So I don't think it's a good stepping stone into HR. The DNA of a recruiter and the DNA of someone who enjoys being an HR generalist, they don't mix at all. A recruiter is curious, risk taker. They like to dig, and they like to do things in the gray area a little bit. HR generalists are more risk averse. They like compliance. They like everything that slows a recruiter down. Sorry if you're an HR generalist. I do have my SPHR, but it's to understand what makes you guys think. But I think you need to hire for people who are passionate about and have curiosity to find people and engage with candidates. They need to almost have the DNA of a salesperson. And kind of that hacker mentality to make it. They need to get energy from closing deals and from discovering things other people can't find. So I think using it as a stepping stone, like I said, you're either going to be miserable now or you're going to be miserable when you get to where you thought you wanted to be. So possibly if I were when you tell me sourcing is a stepping stone to an HR generalist role, that tells me that HR generalists might get paid more than sourcers. I think that's a problem that needs to be overcome, because the only reason, I don't know, if pay were the same, what would you want to do? What would you enjoy more? And then you got to figure out how to make the same amount of money doing that, as opposed to using it as a stepping stone to get more money because the HR generalists get paid more. So I don't know if my assumption is off, but typically when someone says they're using it as a stepping stone, it's financial motivation, not the job description.
Right. I think Jessica, can you add on to what Jeremy has mentioned? About recruiters in HR, their collaboration or lack of communication, and this controversy is already there everywhere. But still, when it comes to making that recruiting profession as a career, what do you want to add on?
Come here. So I agree with Jeremy's point of view that not all sourcers or recruiters can be HR people and vice versa. I think those of us that can do both things, we have a perspective that many don't. In that we understand the compliance sort of boring side of the house, why those things are important, but then we also understand the sales process, how to hack, why it's important, when to take risks. So there is a need for that kind of unique individual at the right company that can fill those roles and maybe work in both sides of the house. I will say that for a lot of folks who start in recruiting, sourcing is a great way to break in, just because internet research is it's an art form, but it's a lot of things that the older, more established recruiters don't really understand, or they don't know the importance of, especially in, and if I offend folks, but the agency headhunting, they just don't understand how it's important. I recently spoke in San Francisco to a group of third-party recruiters and was really blown away by all these agency guys and these headhunters that are just relying solely on LinkedIn to be able to try to engage with a software engineer. These kind of things aren't going to cut it. They're in different places. They're on social media. They're in a community talking with one another. They're writing code. They're at a meetup. These are the kind of things and places that sourcers can really shine. And so if you're a good sourcer and you really know how to use the internet, I think it will help you move up in your career to be a recruiter. It might be a good idea to move into that HR role because you have a more holistic point of view of how the business works. If you actually want to be strategic in your role, that means stepping out of the box, going to operations, maybe working in logistics, kind of getting that point of view. It's going to make you a better recruiter or business professional in the end, regardless of what you do.
Right, right, wonderful. So, Nadine, what are your thoughts?
See, for my case, it was other way around because I was into HR core journalist role. Then I moved into recruitment because I wanted to move into recruitment because recruitment, I feel this is some quantitative job what we are doing. So I agree with Jeremy as well because recruiter is a different DNA and HR journalist is a different DNA. So these people, they have to have, sourcing. People should have, the passion to source candidates. They should have good searching skills. They should be having, sales background. They should be kind of sales guys. So maybe, from sourcing, they can move into sales as well, maybe in future if they want. Because I feel that, sourcing is a sales job instead of HR journalist is normal day-to-day job plus partnering with business. So that is one part of HR. But sourcing is almost kind of a sales job. That's what is my take.
Well, that's great.
And I'm really enjoying sourcing because sourcing is my passion. So even I've seen in India as well, people from my team, in my previous team, people want to stick to recruitment. They don't want to get into HR now. So I think in India also, Gen Y is more, pro to sourcing or getting into recruitment instead of getting into HR journalism.
Well, it's interesting to know that you started your career as an HR in the very beginning and then transitioned to a recruiter role, which is a well thought experience that you can share on this controversial topic. But then still, it is really interesting take that you said that recruiters can really engage the people because they are the first time contact for any new employee in an organization. So that is really an interesting insight that you shared. And Yusuf, would you like to add your thoughts?
Yes, I mean, like Jeremy said that the one of the problems could be the financial monetary aspects towards it, but in India, I don't think that should be a problem. Now, my take on this would be these people won't actually don't get recognition in the market, so it's a kind of a thankless job of a recruiter or a sourcer. That's what I've noticed, or with my experience, I've seen that. So, and the problem with the current recruitment scenario here is that they don't have access to this lot of technologies or tools as compared to the Western parts. They're not aware of these tools and everything. So I think once they start getting into this, and once they get into sourcing and recruitment, and they have that passion to do it, then they won't leave this job. So it's about the passion and what they would love to do. So that is the thing, and if they start doing it, then they could be successful sources or recruiters.
Right.
I was just going to add real quick that if you want to make more money as a sourcer, go contract. there is such a need for good contract recruiters, and you could work 3 or 4 projects at the same time and be able to make some pretty good money. So don't just think about the traditional like recruiter or sourcing role per se. You can have many different clients, be a little bit entrepreneurial. There are hundreds of companies that are looking for good contract sourcers that don't make bad pay, and they don't need to know that you only took an hour to find that candidate instead of 15. And you just work 3 or 4 projects, and your bill rate's going to be more than a corporate recruiter.
Right, right. Well, let's dive more into the real duty or the role of a sourcer, because right now we have this conventional ATS, which sometimes have fantastic searchability, sometimes might not, and other than that, you have your own resume database. And plus, on top of it, you have your social media, your community talent out there. But then still, now you're sitting on with this unprecedented data of human capital right now. But then, how do you actually find out the right candidate that you are actually looking for? How do you actually, in the beginning, Jeremy has already told, cut through the clutter and find out the real person from among that noise. So how do you actually suggest a sourcer to do that job in a professional manner, much easier manner, and in a productive manner? Jeremy?
Yeah, I'll kick that off. So, the important thing, I think Glenn Cathy wrote a piece about 2 years ago. It said, don't be a victim of exotic sourcing syndrome, and it's what he was getting to was don't immediately start with the most impressive tool. Don't skip your ATS and go to LinkedIn just because it's cooler to say you found a candidate on LinkedIn. So I think anytime you're conducting a search, you should look at the data from your previous searches and create a decision tree. This position typically fills in under 60 days with an applicant, so I'm going to put it to the side for a little while and work on these roles. And then the next level would be this one fills in 70 to 80 days with a candidate from the ATS, so there's no need to skip to a job board or to LinkedIn. You search your ATS and exhaust your ATS first. And then you have another one that this one always fills in 90 days with a search firm or a LinkedIn candidate. So that's one on day one. You would start with LinkedIn and other social sourcing and Boolean searching. So it's really, you have to have the data from your previous searches, and then you build kind of a decision tree to know where to start on each family of search so that you're not wasting time. I think the most important thing is learn how to search your own database exhaustively before you move on to other things, meaning understand fully the ATS that you have and the internal resources you have, and learn how to extract every single candidate. And when I do trainings, most of the time, internal recruiters don't even understand how to get all of those candidates out of their database. They're only seeing a small piece because they're not using the right search methodologies to extract everyone. So, don't overlook those resources first, I think would be the summary.
Right. Yusuf, would you like to add?
Yes. Well, I think whenever a sourcer or a recruiter gets a requirement, the first thing he should look at it is the kind of resources is available with him, and design a sourcing toolkit around that job requirement. So over a period of time, he would have multiple sourcing kits for particular job requirements, which are generic requirements which keep going on in the companies. So that person should look at all the resources, job boards, internal database, their LinkedIn, social media, and all other tools he should actually put down in that toolkit and search for those candidates on every toolkit, on every tool, and then that way he would be successful in placing the candidates. And over a period of time, he would have a database or a list of all the toolkits. Particularly for some requirements, he may use some other resources, or for some requirements he would use some other resources. So this way, over a period of time, when he gets a finance requirement, he goes to the financial sourcing toolkit, gets works on those resources and get candidates. So that is how a person should actually look at generating more candidates for the requirements.
Wonderful. So, what do you see some of the myths of using LinkedIn as a primary source for sourcing the candidates? I know Jeremy has pointed out that in the beginning, but then still from your experience, why LinkedIn won't work in the first place?
I think LinkedIn would definitely work, but then I think LinkedIn is just one of the tools available in the market. People should not just rely on LinkedIn and to get candidates. They should be looking at other resources also, because if you look at Facebook, it has got a lot of people there. There are a lot of aggregators which are available in the market where we can find a lot of people. We can we can look at different tools. Job boards also is a good tool where we can actually get candidates. So it's just not LinkedIn. We'll have to look at every tool because your best candidate should be on different other tools also. So we should not just rely on LinkedIn.
Right. Nitin, what's your experience?
Yeah, I would say that in terms of LinkedIn is one of the best tool for leadership hiring, or maybe when we are targeting senior candidates, because LinkedIn has made their brand, and most of the people at senior level across the globe you will be able to find on LinkedIn nowadays. So I think for senior level, definitely LinkedIn is one of the good tools where we can source people, and they are easily available also. And definitely the TAT is a little bit on the higher side, but definitely I would say that first, once we get the requirement, so we should stick to our internal database first, and then go to LinkedIn or other tools where we can target more candidates. Yeah.
Right. Right. So while we were talking about using different tools in the first place, and then use a tool in the beginning, like what works for you, find out that and use that, explore that in the beginning. But then as a strategy for the sourcers or anyone out there that's recruiting or talent acquisition position, you have all these social tools. But how do they find out a strategy to find out, okay, this really works for me, I should work on this particular tool and then move on to the next? Or what do you recommend?
See, I would recommend that once you have a requirement, we should have strategy in place. What kind of requirement it is? It is junior level, senior level, or mid level. We should bifurcate that. This I have internal database for these profiles or not. If we have internal database, so definitely we can go about it. Second thing, definitely we have to look at other job portals as well. But preferably we can look at the passive candidates, or wherein we can get more candidates, maybe LinkedIn, Twitter, Facebook. But at the same time, we have to also ensure that we should not miss out on the turnaround time, because that is one of the key areas, and we have to keep in mind that we should not stick to any tool which is company need to pay for that. So we have to stick to the cost effective tool from where we can get candidates, maybe internal employee referral as well. So these are the tools, that's what I believe that we should have strategy in place in terms of the position where we can target candidates. And all the tools should be cost effective, because I'm into company, and we always try to save cost for the company, because I'm into sourcing, so we have some targets as well. So that's how it is.
Wonderful. So with these tools, as you're saying, in the beginning, Jeremy also pointed out, like we can search anyone on Google, and now Google Plus is another platform. And other than that, same thing happens everywhere, like Twitter or LinkedIn, or even people are using Instagram and Facebook graph search. These are all tools to find and connect with people, and at the same time, the candidates as well. But when it comes to sourcing, what it really takes to succeed as a sourcer, what are some skills that you would like to see among the sourcer in order for them to become a successful sourcer? Jeremy, would you like to?
Sure. I think curiosity, tenacity. Those are the big ones. When you look at a problem, how how soon do you give up, and how you cannot be a black and white thinker. One of the things, like, you'll do a class on Boolean. This is very common. I'll do a class on Boolean, and I'll show people how to construct a Boolean string and how to think about Boolean logic and how to think about, this is the URL for LinkedIn, this is how you dissect the URL, and this is how you back into different parts of the directory by looking at the URL. And we'll go through an hour of this, and then I will give them a few search strings that work while we're doing this training, and then they'll call me 6 weeks later and be like, Jeremy, your search string broke. Can I get a new one? And it's like, well, I wasn't giving you 4 search strings. I was teaching you to think. So now use the tools I gave you on how to think and create new ones. And so the good sourcers are problem solvers. It's like chess. They're constantly thinking about how to get to an answer. They're not just asking you for a black and white solution to sourcing. And so that's the big thing. I mean, if you watch any of the shows about hackers, they'll reverse engineer anything. So like a good sourcer can go to, GitHub, look at the GitHub API. Matt Ferry did this a while back. He went to GitHub, looked at the GitHub API, and then figured out how to manipulate it in a way that if you put in the GitHub user's ID number, it'll shoot out their contact information. I mean, that's a sourcer reverse engineering a website and finding data. So when you talk to a sourcer, if you're looking for a pure sourcer, they need to be a problem solver, they need to not give up, and they need to be very technical.
Right.
So if this person is a recruiter who sources, you can give a little bit on those technical skills if they can sell and engage and close. So.
Wow. That is interesting indeed. And as you were saying, recruiters or sourcers, how can they start with how and why in the first place, rather than just go and use whatever they know, but think outside the box, as we are calling. Jessica, what do you say? Some of the skills that sourcers should have, and probably they should unlearn.
I agree with Jeremy in that they need to be creative thinkers. It's no different than as a blogger myself trying to figure out like how to game search engine optimization, how to get myself on the first page, absorbing the information, figuring out a way to make that happen and to drive traffic and build relationships. My focus for sourcing for me too, and throughout my whole career, granted I haven't ever been just solely a sourcer, but it's about relationships. So, for example, I don't want to have to build a frickin' Boolean search string to try to find somebody in the back end. I want to find one person that I can pick up the phone and say, hey, Jeremy, do you have anybody? Do you know anybody? Do you have a relationship? And he can do the work for me and send me that perfect person to fill my position. I've been able to do this successfully for a number of roles, offering incentives and through the power of personal relationships. So I think that sourcing is innately technical, which I think is important, but I think the personal sourcer, like somebody who's personable and is a relationship sourcer, is going to be more important than ever, because anybody can be a hacker, but not anybody can have those connections and people that will be able to engage you and know that you're going to take care of them because they take care of you. So that's the skill one of the skills that I think is often left out because the hacking is cool. Like, who wouldn't want to have that happen on GitHub and magically a candidate appears? But the reality is that as soon as GitHub realizes that there's an API issue and this is happening, they're creating a fix to patch that hole. And so now you have to hack again when, you know what, I could just find my one person in San Francisco that has all the answers that can send me a referral. I would much rather source that way, but also do some of the technical aspects. Maybe I'm crazy, but I'm all about relationships.
Great. That is interesting that, as you say, the technology comes second, if I can say, but the people aspect or the human aspect, that should be there in terms of engagement or in terms of connectivity and building that relationship. And Yusuf, what do you say are some of the key skills that sourcers must have?
I think the sources should be go-getters. I mean, whenever they get a requirement, they should look at every tool possible. They should do a lot of research, find out where these people are, look at different articles, associations, directories, wherever they can, and their attitude should be that whenever they get a requirement, they should be able to close that position. Okay, instead of handing it over to the vendors or something, they should be go-getters and get those candidates and place those candidates. So I think that is one skill set which is highly required. I also agree with Jeremy that these techniques or tools can be taught to people, but how to use those tools and techniques, there's a logic behind that. So you can just tell them that X-ray search we need to use in URL, but after in URL, what needs to be put, what keywords need to be searched, those are the logical things which the sourcer should know. So he should be a logical thinker also. So it's a combination of getting the searches right, getting the right people, and looking at every possible tool or resources to get these candidates.
Great. Well, in fact, we have a question related to that particular thought that you have shared. Nubur is asking, engaging his candidate is must, as you guys are saying, and what are the ways to engage them quickly? Because nowadays, you know, we have all those tools is there, but then visibility is there, and also searchability is there, but all we need is the time to connect with the candidates and talk to them and respond to their queries, right? But still, what do you think are some of the key aspects to engage that candidates right away on that first interaction itself?
Yeah, so back to what Jessica said. I agree with what Jessica said in terms of the relationship is key. So where the sourcing comes in is how do you source that first person that's the perfect person to go get your referrals from? So, you know, you engage those candidates. I guess first of all, everybody's too dependent on LinkedIn right now. Don't send a bulk LinkedIn in-mail and then wait for calls. You know, you can send 100 if you want, but you better have, you know, your top 10 of those 100 that you plan to call. And so instead of sending a message, you call the main number of their company, get through the gatekeeper, and get that person on the phone and have a conversation with them. So, I mean, that's the first thing is don't overcomplicate things by sitting and looking for every email address they ever had. Pick up the phone and call the main number and then get them on the phone. If that doesn't work, start looking at the tax rolls of their home address and then find the number at their house. Find their cell phone number on their kids', you know, hockey mom, you know, carpool list online. You know, whatever it is, you know, find phone numbers and call them first. You know, that's really important. So don't skip that. And then when you are sending messages, I use a scheduling tool. Like the one I use is Schedule Once, but there are 4 or 5 different ones that are equally as good as Schedule Once. But so when you are reaching out to someone to schedule a phone interview, just say, hey, I really need to talk to you about something. You know, this is what I'm working on. I'm not sure if you might be a fit, but you probably know the right person. I'd love to chat with you. Select a convenient time, and then they log onto my Schedule Once page and select, you know, 30 minutes to talk to me. And then, you know, instead of going back and forth to schedule an appointment, then with one click, they can pick a convenient time, and then I can call them. So that's one way to kind of shorten that. Another is, you know, use something unique in your messaging. One of the tools I've used in the past is Inside Connector. With Inside Connector, you build a personal landing page for a candidate, and there's a personal video. You know, hi Jessica, this is Jeremy. I'm with SourceCon, and I came across your profile, and you look like a great fit for something I'm working on. If you click on the link right below this video, it'll give you more information about the job. If you click over on the right, you'll see my social profiles, and you can learn more about me. But anyway, I'd love to chat with you. Click on the link to my scheduling page and pick a convenient time. And then that personal interaction on that encourages them to reach out to you. So you have to personalize it, and you have to know the people before you reach out to them. You know, if they're just a developer of one type of software, you don't want to call them about a totally different type of software they've never touched, because you'll lose all credibility. So personalization, if you had to summarize everything I just said, personalize it. So, and make it easy to connect with you.
Wonderful. Well, personalize it and customize it and have that personal connection. So, what do you see are some of the tools and techniques that makes the sourcer's job easier? Like some tools that you have said right now, but other than that, Jessica and Yusuf, I would like to hear from you guys. What are some tools that you would recommend that sourcers should definitely use to save the time and increase the productivity, but at the same time, they don't miss the mark, they don't miss that personal connection which is there already?
I have a couple that I'm using right now, and I am a real big fan of IFT, and so I like to make recipes on there for different things. One of my favorite ones right now is that I have a recipe set up so anytime an attachment comes in with the word resume in the title, it automatically uploads to my Dropbox to a special box so that I don't lose that person's resume. So every night or whatever, it'll upload it back. And then I have a storage kind of container for those type of things. And you can personalize your inboxes. So if they have like Hadoop engineer resume or something, they'll go to different places automatically. And that helps me make sure, like, oh man, I talked to that guy 2 weeks ago. What was his name? Well, I can go directly to my Dropbox. Another one that I'm really loving, although I hate their terms of service and the security, is Connectifier. But I love Connectifier. It's in beta, and basically it will give me contact information of anybody's profile on Quora, LinkedIn, Twitter, and other places. And I have cold called directly from phone numbers that are posted on Connectifier, and I'm getting people's email, or getting their cell phone number, and I'm able to talk to recruiters. I had been filling some sourcing and contract recruiting positions a couple weeks ago, and Connectifier was really key in making a couple placements super easy. I would have had to probably search about 15 minutes or so to look for that person's email address or phone number, and I had it straight away.
Great. Well, those are some cool tools. You should definitely check it out. And then, Yusuf, I've heard in India that WhatsApp app has been highly active when it comes to sourcing, and people are creating groups and whatnot,
Yes.
exploring different arenas. So what have you seen are some of the cool techniques that you can share, which is working in India and which you would like to share to a global audience? And what are some tips and techniques that you would like to share to our sources to save their time?
Okay. Well, mobile recruitment has gained popularity here in the recent times, and people have started using WhatsApp as a recruitment tool to get candidates. So what they do is, if you have the mobile number of the person, you can automatically get him in the contact list, and you can start chatting to the candidates. And this way you can actually build a good relationship with the candidates, because if they are, or they're not interested in the job, they can definitely give you some referrals and all those things. And these people mostly have their mobile numbers on the social media sites or maybe on the job boards. So this mobile recruitment has become very effective tool in engaging people. So you can talk about your corporate branding with them. You can talk about different opportunities. You can talk about the different events happening in your company. So this gives the candidates an overall picture of the company. The branding is happening, and people are always attracted towards your company, and they're always engaged. So either they join your company or not, but then they can refer people to you. Then we've got different groups where people talk about different technologies, and where people we can target people on different technologies from those groups. So a lot of things are happening around this, because normally now around I would say 95% of the people would have smartphones with them, and they would have WhatsApp or WeChat or some other tools where we can actually chat with them.
Right. So now the next question is an age-old question that for every recruiter or talent acquisition professional, or any sourcer as well, how can they do a better sourcing or recruitment when it comes to filling the position with less time of effort, and make sure they have an increased quality of hire? And this question is to everyone. So Jeremy?
Sorry, I had to unmute. My dogs were fighting behind me.
No.
So, this is one of those that it goes back to everything that we're talking about. You need to know what your source of hire has been for similar roles in the past so that you're starting in the right place on each search. You need to know, and in the productivity enhancements, you need to make it easy for them to schedule a time to interview with you, and you need to get to the right candidate quickly. I think the cross-referencing tools like Jessica mentioned a minute ago are critical. Connectifier is a good one. Connectifier, I think, started charging recently, so if you don't have a budget, a new one that I've been using lately that's really good is Connect 6. Connect 6 does the same thing, slightly different algorithms. There's some different information in there, but there's Connect 6, there's 360 Social, there's Monkey, and basically those cross-referencing tools, so say you see a profile of a candidate on LinkedIn, you can automatically then see all of that person's social profiles at once so that you can, one, personalize your message, see additional contact information, see where they're most active. If they're most active on Twitter, reach out to them there. If they're most active on LinkedIn, reach out there. So you can get a lot more detail and know where to reach out to them at. But I think really a good search methodology to extract all of the relevant data in your system is critical. So that's a tough question to answer really quickly. There's not one solution. It's the entire process. So.
Right. Thank you. Jessica?
I think the best way would be to prepare for that opening. So creating a talent pipeline and start sourcing and building those relationships and trying to find that guy or gal, like we talked about, that has referrals or can lead you to somebody. That's the key thing. So building your database of candidates before the floodgates open and you have, 15 new developer, designers, call center reps, whatever it is, beforehand, so that you already have that pool of people that you can call on. That's really the solution.
Jessica, what do you think is a great place? Okay, so say you're talking to a sourcer who doesn't have the right CRM to be building that. They don't have a corporate LinkedIn account to pull all these in. Where would you say is a good tool that's inexpensive for someone like that to store information?
LinkedIn. LinkedIn would be, or not LinkedIn, sorry. I would say your spreadsheet, which is what I used, definitely. Another good one that's in beta, and if you need an invite, let me know. I'm an investor, is a product called Archively. And that would be a good one for you to go ahead and build a list of people and look at their social profiles and follow their career, but nothing like having a spreadsheet to list updates and notes of when you talked with them, what the status is by position and date. It sounds archaic, but when I was mass hiring for call center reps, inside sales people, and marketing people, that's what I did. This is what I had to do because our headcount would fluctuate from 125 to 300 people a quarter, and my boss, who was the VP of HR, had the expectation that me and my recruiting team, we needed to fill these positions straight away. So that's what we had to use, was a spreadsheet. But there's better tools now. Archively would probably be my #1 to recommend if you don't have the budget to be able to pay for LinkedIn Recruiter or some sort of CRM.
Right, we have some fantastic tools that are being discussed right now. Please check it out. And then finally, Yusuf, what are some tools that you would like to recommend to sources to save their time?
I think Jeremy and Jessica have covered most of the tools, and there's one tool which we haven't actually spoke about is telephone. Telephone sourcing or name sourcing, or in India we call it as headhunting. It's also a very good tool to actually get candidates, and a lot of people in India they've been involved in doing name sourcing. So it's a mixture of internet research, again, by using the tools which Jessica and Jeremy mentioned. Using those tools and using telephone or name sourcing techniques, we can actually get more candidates, and we can easily fill in the hard to find requirements as well.
Great, great. Well, this is the Power Pack session I have already told you in the beginning, and right now, by this time, you might have learned so many tools and techniques at this point. So, uh, let's take some few questions from our audience, and the first one. Okay, we have two questions on this particular aspect. Nupur Pathak and at the same time Archana is asking the same. We have these social tools and technologies and social media. Is there a flip side to it? That is from Archana and from Nupur. How does social media score more than traditional methods of sourcing? So who would you like to answer that question?
Can you repeat that, please?
Yeah.
Archana, repeat that.
Yeah, Archana is asking, is there a flip side to using social media for sourcing? And Nubur, she's asking the same question. How does social media score more than traditional methods of sourcing?
I think, go ahead, Jessica. No, you go.
Okay. I was just going to say that when I think of traditional methods of sourcing, I think of the telephone sourcing or LinkedIn databases that you're pulling from. The thing about social media is that people are providing very personal amounts of information about themselves. Maybe they're at a data scientist meetup and they use a certain hashtag, or they're at a conference, or they're saying something on Instagram that they're a store manager at Petco, and you are looking for candidates to fill those roles, and it's in real time. So they provide you a lot more information, very specific things that you might not get from somebody who has a profile on LinkedIn. Specifically, the really specific, like technology-driven positions, like data scientists or engineers or Hadoop, JavaScript, whoever, they're not publishing LinkedIn profiles. They're not making them public. They're tired of recruiters calling on them, cold calling, emailing. They get inundated with information. My husband works in a healthcare IT, and he gets between 3 to 8 phone calls a week from recruiters just checking in. It's a smaller community, so he has relationships with these people over the long term, but a really great engineer is getting 20 to 50 messages a week, and that's a lot. So go to social media to look for these folks who don't have LinkedIn profiles and build a relationship with them. I mean, that's really the key. It's a database that you can start to engage a targeted group of job seekers from.
Right. Jeremy, you were telling in the beginning.
Yeah, I think Jessica has pretty much summarized my thoughts. I think people, social media is, all of the tools we've been talking about today, all the aggregators, Hiring Solve, Guild, Intello, Talent Bin, the cross-referencing tools like Connect6 and the 360 Social, they all let you see social profiles. So, and then LinkedIn, I mean, is that social media? I don't know. It's more of a job board now at this point. But, so if social media from a sourcing perspective should be used to extract data, so use a social site with good data. Facebook graph search is still, it's decent. People have success with it, but don't waste your entire day on graph search because there's not a ton of professional data there. Yeah. So it's a tough question. I mean, like, to me, when people start talking about social recruiting, that crosses into the branding definition, not the sourcing definition. So you have to be careful not to waste your time that you're expected to be sourcing and presenting candidates on branding activities. So I don't know. I'm kind of a sourcing purist when it comes to that, and so you need to go where the good data is. If your profession that you're going after is not in the social sites, you need to recognize that quickly and go to the places they are. So there's not really a black and white answer to that.
Right. And Yusuf, would you like to add something to their thoughts, or if we can take the next question?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Jeremy and Jessica. There are flip sides to it, and It's actually how you look at it. So if you actually don't want to go through it, you can look at different tools and for your requirements or for the candidates. So it actually depends on you. But then we should not actually remove social media out of the question, because there are a lot of talent available on social media also. So depending on your requirements and everything, you'll have to look at everything.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. And I know we lost Nitin in between, and then he has joined us right now. Hey, Nitin, we are taking some questions from our audience, and we are about to wrap up the show right now. And my last question is from Kunchal. He is asking, how can we get more people take take sourcing as a career?
Okay.
Nitin, can
Should
you
I
hear
answer
me?
that?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah. Would you like to answer this question of Kunchal? He is asking, how can we get more people to take sourcing as their career?
Sure, definitely. I would say because we have seen HR, so we have to be very clear that what sourcer is looking at, right? You have asked one question, what qualities we should look at the sourcers, when we should be discussing what quality we should have for sourcer to hire, and see sourcing as a career. So I think we have to brand sourcing as a different from recruitment. We have to brand sourcing as a career, where people want to build their career because sourcing is a very passionate job. It is target oriented. They have to be very good into searching. They have to be proactive. They have to be uh, you know, sales oriented as well, target driven. So I think we have to, brand ourselves in such a way so that, people should look up to sourcing as a career, because sourcing is one of the challenging jobs, and it gives you immense, satisfaction once you close candidates from different sourcing, tools, for example, Facebook, Twitter. So when you're connected with someone and you're getting references, it's a different kind of feeling when you close people through different searches. So I think we have to brand in such a way so that people should opt for sourcing as a career.
Yeah, I love this question. If I could jump in real quick, I
Please.
think I'm pretty passionate about this one because I've had sourcing roles in organizations with great teams, and then I've had sourcing roles in organizations where the sourcer is kind of the indentured servant of the recruiter. You know what I'm saying? So to make people want to be a sourcer, you need to have a good workflow and a good structure on your team, and give them the credit that is due when they make a placement, and they need to be sourcers need to be able to manage the recruiters that they're working with. They need to be able to drive the process. I looked at 50 candidates. I spoke with 15. These are the only 3 qualified. Now you go take these 3 qualified candidates and close the deal. And the recruiter, you have to be working with recruiters who are good enough to then go close the deal with those 3 candidates. You can't let a recruiter turn around and say, thanks for these 3, my hiring manager's not interested, now go find me 3 more. You need to be working, to want to source, you have to be working with good recruiters who can close deals, or you're going to want to just go be a recruiter. So I think that's the big thing when it comes to sourcing. I mean, if you're just sitting there expected to be a resume factory for people who can't close deals, it's a miserable job.
Yep. Well, thank you so much, Jeremy. Thank you so much for your thoughts and insights. And I know you have to get onto a call right now, but it's okay.
Thank you guys very much.
No problem. Yeah. And we are about to wrap up the show right now. And thank you so much to all of our panelists for joining us today and sharing your words of wisdom to all of our audience. I'm sure it was a fantastic learning session for them, getting to know all the tools like Connectifier, Connect 6, 360 degree, and what else? 360 social, and I have noted as some of them, Archively is again one of the interesting tools that Jesse has mentioned. So check it out and try out everything, and don't forget to have a human connection, because that matter most, and engagement is what makes you successful in your sourcing career. So Jessica, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me. It was wonderful.
Great. And Nitin and Yusuf, thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Nisha. It was a pleasure to be part of this session.
Great.
Yeah,
Look forward to having you guys again soon, and thank you so much to all of our audience for your support on our Twitter stream, and we can't wait to go through each and every tweets, and we will talk to you all in the next show. Meanwhile, if you have been subscribed to our YouTube channel, please go ahead and do that. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye, everyone.